Hello and welcome to another Top Advisor Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Halloran. You know, you get to meet a lot of different people when you go to conferences and really just in different social circles. And our guest today has been referred into me repeatedly as somebody not only do I need to know from the coaching and consulting arena and financial services, but also just because she's really freaking cool. So Kristin Harad is our guest today. She's with Full Advisor Coaching, and we're going to dive into some stuff. Now, we haven't really gone through this with this level of detail, I think, in the past, because we're really going to be talking about the whole ecosystem in an advisor's business. There have been a couple of episodes where we've kind of dove in.
Yeah, I think divin.
Let's go divin. Divin into just to truly, try to find out how we can help all of you a little bit more. Because if you look at your business as an ecosystem, everything is going to run more smoothly because you realize that everything is dependent on each other. Kristin, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Matt. It's great to be here. I'm excited. Ever since I met you the very first time, I was like, oh, I can't wait to have another conversation with this guy.
And so now it's officially recorded.
I know. Now other people will know we had the conversation, which is why we do all this anyway.
That's true. So, that's absolutely true. Okay. Yeah. So just, if you don't mind, just take a minute or two who do you do this with? And let's just talk a little bit about what your coaching, like how your Full Advisor Coaching exists in the marketplace.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been doing this quite a long time, a couple decades now, Matt, and having had my own RIA, I, draw on that experience. Though, frankly, over the last number of years, it's just the collective experience of working with so many different RIAs and advisors. A trend I saw kind of going across all was we get the RIAs or the leaders of RIAs get to a point where they go, okay, I've gotten, from ground zero to here, and now I want to go from here to here. So I find that point to often be around the $1 million in revenue. Where it's like, okay, this is a little more complicated now, or I have to now step into being more of a CEO, less of just an advisor, kind of hustling and getting the business in. So I've really, when I looked at building out my brand and looking at, okay, I've evolved over the years as well, from working with startup advisors to larger RIAs to this, I think often referred to as the messy middle group, the group that's like, okay, we've gotten certain, we're under $1 billion in assets under management or 10 million revenue, however we want to think about it. We're kind of trying to build out something bigger, better, different, more, while also remembering that we're human and we want to enjoy ourselves and we have a really cool life. And we want to do that too. And we help our clients do that. So we want to do that too. So Full Advisor Coaching is about really helping RIA leaders who have achieved a certain level of success, who have a vision for the future of where they want to go. And they're trying to figure out how to get there without sacrificing their personal life.
Well, so biz dev specifically, right? And really looking at going from here to here and maybe having the main advisor stepping more into a CEO role or hiring in the CEO role.
Sure.
What are you hearing is working really well from that, $1 million in revenue and up? Because again, that is the messy middle. You have more team members. There's all of a sudden HR rules that you have to apply when you hit a specific number of employees. Maybe you want to get 2 or 3 other junior or younger advisors in to freshen up the brand. But you really, when we say ecosystem, you really manage all of this stuff. But let's start with biz dev first, because, I just been to a couple of conferences. You and I were talking about that before we hit record.
Right.
And organic growth is still what everybody's talking about, but it's incredibly unpredictable. And it's in most advisors, 12 to 14% of their growth has just been the market, right? Yeah. So let's talk biz dev. Hit me.
Right. So when I think about business development, I am actually talking primarily around organic, not in going and buying other, firms or companies. So it is when I started elevating my conversation from saying, oh, I do marketing, coaching, and consulting, because marketing, everyone always gets stuck in the top of the funnel, right? They're like, oh, marketing, yes, I'm going to go out here, but having grown up working in a direct marketing agency in New York way back in the 90s, and then kind of starting my RIA off of marketing knowledge, I've always seen marketing as the full relationship, relationship marketing from the time someone first hears about you all the way through to them becoming a loyal advocate for your business, right? So I find that advisors are very limited. When you say marketing, they think, podcast, content, getting out in the world. But in fact, so I've started saying, all right, well, let's look at the whole business development ecosystem, because at any point along that client journey, you are able to affect the ultimate growth of your business, right? There's kind of four main ways to increase revenue. And most advisors will go, I need to get more people in front of me. I need more at bats, which very much can be the case. And it's like, okay, one of the biggest things I see is we need more at bats with higher value clients. So that comes down to, all right, well, then how are we repositioning you in the market? What are we doing? What kind of content are you putting out there? How do your clients want to absorb that content? What is the messaging you're putting out there to be able to attract them in? And so that's where a lot of advisors focus. And quite frankly, that is a big piece of the puzzle, right? But the next part of this ecosystem is, how are you capturing leads coming in? How are you qualifying leads? And what is that prospect experience, right? So this is what I like to call the lead to client conversions section of the system, right? So it's great. Someone's raised their hand. They've signed up for a lead magnet, some sort of free report or a video series or whatever it is. They're like, yay, okay, I'm going to get your download. I'm going to put that in my inbox and someday maybe read it. And then, so how are you staying in front of them? How are you having that? What is that experience to keep your firm top of mind? So a lot of times I find that the biggest hole in business development, and I'll get into the other phases, is that middle part where people come in, but nobody's asking them to take an action to work with you, right? So advisors will be like, all right, we got to do everything to get more people in. Okay, we got to do everything to service our clients. Well, what about all these people in the middle, right? So, and I'm sure you've seen that, but so it's like, how are you what are you doing to email them? How are you reaching out, whether it's one-on-one or by calendar communication? What is that process? How many follow-ups are you doing? So there's a lot of points in there, from the email collection through to someone signing the paperwork in a prospect meeting. So that's kind of the middle section. And then the last section is the client experience. So that's where, how are you delivering value? What does that first year look like for a client? How are they able to articulate to their friends and family what it is you do and how you're helping them? And then, are they seeing meaningful change in their life in terms of stress relief, and that you're a valuable partner? And that carries through into year 2, 3, 4, 5. How are you engaging them? What is it that you're doing to make them feel comfortable and want to refer their friends or bring over more share of wallet, right? So another opportunity for business development is, hey, some of your clients are sitting there with more money on hand that they didn't even think to bring over, or they're likely to tell someone about you if they just understood exactly how to, or if they knew that you offered a service that maybe they're not taking advantage of, but they could. So we kind of have these 3 distinct parts: bring more people in, get higher volume there, convert more of the people in the middle. So fix your sales messaging, your prompting, your engagement there, or client experience on the back end. How do we improve that to make that better? And then, of course, the 4th way to reach a growth goal is to raise your prices. So, or increase your minimums, right? And bring in people who are higher. So that one is a whole sort of a little bit outside of the ecosystem, but not to be overlooked, right? In fact, I see a fair number of people. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think that's really important. But I want we haven't really spent a lot of time with our guests on the messy middle, not
Hmm.
only from the growth perspective, but what we just talked about there, which is the handoff between marketing and sales, and then
Yeah,
the handoff
exactly.
between sales and service. And
Yes.
you have a really big background in marketing. How
Hmm.
do you communicate the need and the how of making sure that that message from top of funnel all the way through to 3 to 5 years into the client experience, that they are still hearing and feeling the same thing, which will make it easier for them to refer business in?
Yeah, that's a n- most people don't even see that connection from that big picture, which is what I'm you've articulated that really well. And that comes back to kind of having your overall company brand messaging. Like, what do we, who are we? What do we value? Who is our audience? What are our core services? And how do we convey the benefits to our clients, right? And to people who are working with us. So you have to get on the same page around all of that. And it can be easy to gloss over it. And it can also be easy to spend too much time there that you're not actually getting, so you got to find that like balance of like, okay, we're clear on this. I find that advisors overall have the messaging is the hardest piece. Like if we can just figure out how to articulate what we do for whom and what the benefit is, then that thread can carry, you just keep reinforcing that across everything you do, wherever they are in the experience with you. And that can change um, depending on what the station of the relationship as they go through. When you're doing content on the front end, you're trying to talk about things that are immediate pain points to them
Yep.
that you can ultimately get them to take an action, right? And then as you're working through the sales process and handing that over, you're trying to help them realize the benefits of outsourcing this, handing this over, right? Then you get into client experience. It's like, how are you continuing to show that you have value that you're providing, and what is that value, and how is it that you're showing that you care and that it makes a difference? And so I like to just start with the client journey and just walk
Mm.
through the journey, and along that path, who are all of the people in your firm who are going to interact with that person? What is their role? And do they know that what they do impacts the overall growth of the business? Like,
Yeah.
even if you're the one confirming a trade and sending that trade confirmation, what does that trade confirmation look like? Is it in a language and in a style that aligns with the perception that you want to show? Are you reinforcing confidence in that client? That person who's just doing the trade and sending the confirm may not think that they're affecting the big picture and the business growth, but that's where the leaders need to come in and make sure people every step of the journey know how important their role is into the whole ecosystem. And I feel like that gets lost a lot.
Well, it's so important, and every touch needs to be specifically reinforcing, as you said, I'm summarizing here, the value proposition, the values, and really the benefits of working with the organization. And I love that you highlighted trade confirmations, because I think a lot of people are just like, I just sent them a trade confirmation. That's a touch. That's a valuable touch where you can
Yeah.
say, hey, listen, we did this because we talked about this and this was your goal. And here's what we think that that goal is going to be able to be achieved. And and then again, reinforce brand message, because we do this because we like helping everyday people just like achieve the retirement they've worked so hard for, whatever their
Right.
value proposition is, which we don't do
Right.
that stuff, you do that stuff. But I want to no, I want you to elaborate on that a little bit,
Okay. I
because
just want to,
yeah,
yeah,
go
I'm going to
ahead.
jump in and say, imagine, like, think how important it is as a client when you're like, okay, especially if you've never worked with an advisor and now you've turned over your life savings and you're like, okay, whew, hopefully this works. And then you get a trade comp. I mean, how good does it feel when someone's actually buying and selling something in your account related to your actual dollars that you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into?
Mhm.
And then you get a confirmation that's like, wanted to let you know we made this trade.
Right.
It's complete. It's like, okay, well, how can we elevate that message? Could it even be a video that says, hey, this is Aaron over in operations, and I just wanted to let you know we executed that trade. Everything went smoothly and all is well. I mean, that's really like taking it above and beyond, but there could be something in between there that makes sense. But I think especially for maybe newer clients just getting onboarded, like how is it that you can make them feel comfortable and know what to expect? Too many advisors, and this is where I've done a lot of work with, I also work with larger firms as a fractional CMO. So I'll come in and we'll really dissect this onboarding experience of the first, what is that first 90 days? Like the people coming in probably don't have any idea what to expect. They've taken a leap to say, all right, I trust you. I feel good about this. You cannot over communicate during that time. You absolutely cannot. Like, let them know, here's what, when you sit down, here's what you can expect over the next 90 days and then across the next year. You're going to hear from us here, here, and here. You are always welcome to reach out to us. We know that this is a big step and a big transition. And so the more you can map that out and explain and have a clear process outlined on, hey, this is what's going to happen. We're going to do this. Then you're going to hear from these places. We're going to have to move some money. You're going to have to sign some papers. And you show a little picture that says, this is what we can expect. So, and then you introduce any technology, like here's the portal, here's this, you're going to get this, here's the people on the team. So you want to look at people, process, and technology, right? And bring that in and say, okay, this is what you as a client can expect, and this is how it works. So I think that's a really important part of the whole ecosystem, taking that macro view.
I two things. One, as a recovering therapist and marriage counselor, setting those clear expectations are only going to make the relationship better. When you say, hey, I expect you to do this and we're going to do this, and show that you're on somewhat equal footing, even though a lot of times it does, from the client's perspective, they're like, oh my God, I'm doing all of this stuff. If you're not communicating all of the stuff that you're doing, then there's an imbalance there, and it doesn't always go very smoothly. But the other thing, and so many moons ago when I was consulting, I had a firm in Georgia, and they had this process. It was called the 90-day wow. And like every single solitary new client went through this 90-day wow. And then when they got any hint that there was unhappiness or there was a negative piece of communication, they immediately, they had these other wow programs. And here's the best part, and I think this is something that a lot of advisors don't truly understand, is you're actually going to get more referrals within the first 90 days because of confirmation bias, right? So I start working with you, right? Well, I want to make sure I did the right thing. So I'm going to have my friends check this out too. And if your 90 days is as good as it can be, consistent with everything that they felt, because that's the other thing, Chris, and this is what drives me nuts. Warm and fuzzy, warm and fuzzy, warm and fuzzy. And then all of a sudden stark math, pie charts, bar graphs. And we're like, well, hold on a second here. Like, you were the warm and fuzzy person, and now you're like all rigid and hard and like dictatorial. And that's why working with somebody like you is so incredibly important, to make sure that there's a continuity in feeling, not just in the level of communication. Now, I want to switch gears just a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of times, because I love talking about marketing, and you know that.
I know.
I forget something that actually was recently reminded to me at Future Proof, when I was sitting down with all of these 15-minute speed dating things that we did. And I had 5 or 6 people say to me, I have now, Matt, you're my 24th meeting. Where do I start? Like, everybody's got all of these great ideas, and it's just so flipping overwhelming. So when you're intaking an advisor, when you're really taking a look at their practice or doing the fractional CMO stuff, how do you help them, one, realize where they need to start? And then 2, how do you get them to start making momentum toward that?
Great question. And I do want to say, just quickly touching back on something you said just a few minutes ago about maintaining that feeling across the experience versus just like, hey, Warren, we're going to sell you, make you feel good. So you sign the papers, and then
Yeah.
I think it can be very helpful. And what I've seen in all of the coaching I do, whether it's with a solo advisor with these V2 firms that I talk about, that messy middle, or the higher or the larger firms, is it's so helpful to have someone as outside of the organization look in and see the macro flow of the client experience of the ecosystem. And it's easier to identify holes from the outside, as it were. So I do. That's a little tooting of my own horn there, but that is something I look for. I'm an intuitive feeler per the Myers-Briggs and all of that stuff. So if my husband's listening, he's rolling his eyes right now, being like, "Are you saying that again?" But I'm like, I'm an intuitive feeler. I feel, and so I look at something with the feeling of what is the person experience as they go through it. But anyway, that was just something I wanted to comment that is very helpful. And so it's sort of the same concept in applying, like, so when I'm working with these V2 leaders and we're in a coaching, let's say we're in a coaching environment, it could be at any stage, right? But the first thing we're going to do after sort of, what is your vision? What are your goals? What's your 1 year? So we've, worked our way down to, okay, let's get a 1 year. What are our priorities? How do we determine what are the key things we want to do to grow? We'll take a look and map out the business development ecosystem. So I break it down. I have a beautiful picture that's like, okay, here's our kind of the overlay of all the parts of the system. And then we break it down into these worksheets. It's like, okay, brand awareness. What are the things you're doing? 1, 2, 3, 4 right now to let people know you exist. What would you like to be doing in the next 2 to 3 years? And then I have these evaluation criteria of how expensive, what's the cost of it, how much time or energy goes into it, how excited are you as a team or as an individual to do this activity. So we work through each line item on that to work through the stages of the ecosystem. So you have brand awareness, you have lead capture and a new lead. What is the experience of a new lead? Same thing, like, okay, this is what, they receive an email, then they receive a 10-week drip series. They also get a video from the CEO, whatever the items are on there. And we look at that, and we do the same thing with qualifying leads. What is that conversation? What are you doing along the way? Who's involved? What is the messaging? So we literally break it down and then say, okay, where are the opportunities here? There may be some that you're doing really well, and we're like, all right, we can, crank up the gas on that one, right? We just keep doing more of that. There might be some holes where we go, okay, it will actually be better for us if we plug this hole over here and smooth out the experience, right? Maybe it's that transition from the first meeting to the second meeting as a prospect. Maybe it's from prospect to onboarding. It could be anywhere along the way. And we plug those holes. So it's like, all right, let's really focus in on this area. So we take you through each section: brand awareness, lead capture, prospect nurture, client year 1, client year 2 plus. And then just methodically walk through and say what's missing, and then which of these triggers, if we are only picking 3 things for the year, I like to keep it like there might be 10 things you want to do, but let's pick 3. We'll try to identify a quick win. We try to identify which things have the highest ROI or impact on the business, and then which ones do the team have the most energy around, because that's the ones that are going to get done.
Well,
that's how we approach it.
Yeah, let's talk about the team thing, because I think there's a huge opportunity that advisors miss, and you really opened this can of worms right at the top, talking about this continuity thing from all the way from beginning to end, in which is when that person who does the trading in your office, she sends that video. The person who's scheduling the appointments, when he's taking and setting that appointment, there are unbelievable business development opportunities on every single solitary person and touch point. And we know, and I know, since you've coached way more people than I have, but in my limited coaching experience, when I got the whole team to buy in, man, that next level was so much easier to hit. How do
Yeah.
you help teams really buy into the mission, vision, and the value proposition of the firm so they see those opportunities to help grow the firm, even if they're not
Yeah.
producers? And I'm air
And
quoting
I
here.
think that's really, I find it to be one of the most fun areas because it's something I used to do when I worked in corporate America way back in the dark ages before I, you know, jumped into this fun industry. But it was about saying, hey, here's the firm brand message, right? Here's what we're all about, and kind of educating at that high level. And then bringing it down to each role and how is it that you can affect that. So in the case of like specifically how I help firms, I will in my V2 leaders coaching program, we will go through that as a group and sort of start to identify, we'll articulate what that is, and I'll help them with the communication points and how to bring it up in a team meeting and what to do there. In a larger firm, or if I'm just brought in to do a basic workshop, with a firm who's like, hey, we have a brand, we have this, we want you to help educate the team, then I'll come in and do a half day session where it's really cool because you can have the person on the team member, obviously have the RA leader speaking about the brand. I can help on that or not help, but it's better to come from the leadership. But,
Sure.
we put together that presentation, we have that, and they have that conversation. But then we can have each person on the team sort of identify what they think their impact is, where they see the improvement could be, or where they see the opportunity is, because they're the ones doing the work day in and day out. And if they can see it with that new lens on it of this brand, then it gives them sort of the permission and the opportunity to plug into the energy of the firm. So it's really in how it's delivered. But that's one of my absolute favorite things to do is to help teach and train teams of advisor. It could just be even lead advisors, or but when you can get really down into the client service reps and the people answering the phone, or the people responding to emails, or any operations people along the way, it's pretty exciting and magical, even for like a smaller team or a big team.
Well, and if you're sitting here listening to the show and thinking to yourself, well, gosh, my team just thinks every time I have an idea, it's just going to make more work for them, which is technically true, but there are ways to make it so that that is rewarding for them. And if that's a gap that you're seeing, then obviously, Kristin, is where you want to go. Okay, so if you're looking for somebody who's going to be able to come into your firm at all of these various levels, fractional CMO, the V2, or newer advisors, and truly make sure that there's massive continuity when it comes to not just practice management, but business development, marketing, branding, and all of those things, you need to reach out. So Kristin, what is the best way for people to reach out? And really, since you do service those three levels, what are you looking for now?
Well, that's a great question. And I guess some of that depends on when are we going live, but overall, like well, first, let me just say it's fulladvisorcoaching.com. Just go there. I have a button on every page that says request a call. If you don't know which of the sessions, just pick one of the 30-minute sessions and have a call with me. I try to make that as easy as possible for advisors. And even if you have no idea where you fit in the system, schedule a call, we'll work it out. And if I don't have the right option, I know lots of people in the industry. So that's one of my favorite things to do too, is to connect advisors with the right resource for them. A big focus of mine right now is on these V2 leaders, the people who are the RAA leaders who have reached this point and they're really looking ahead and saying, I have a bigger vision. I know I have more potential. I have somewhere to go. I do in January of 2025, I'll have another cohort starting with that coaching cohort. It's small, it's intimate. I only work with 3 or 4 firms at a time. And then we have enrollment in that throughout the year at various points. So depending on when this is airing or when someone's listening to it, just go to the website, go to services, drop down V2 leaders. You'll see when the next cohort is. We keep it intimate so we can really dig in, and that's just a really exciting
Yeah.
space to be in and great people to work with. I love the firms I've been working
And
with.
lots and lots of need. And the other thing that I'm going to just shamelessly promote for you is please follow her on LinkedIn. Easy, just go ahead and type in your name because you're always sharing great information. And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I mean, you at least respond to my DMs. And so that's another good way to go ahead and reach out. If you're just there and you see something that she posts and you're like, holy Moses, that was freaking awesome. Just send a quick message and I'm sure those links can show up.
I was going to say, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. And if they haven't yet listened, we do have the Full Advisor Coaching Podcast.
Dum, dum, dum.
Available thanks to your friends at Proudmouth. Anyway, thank you so much. I am really excited about my podcast too. And it's been really fun. So LinkedIn, another great place to find me. So
So Full Advisor Podcast 2, please make sure that you subscribe to that. We'll make sure, of course, that we have links everywhere. So no matter if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this as a podcast or you see this as a social media post, please make sure that you go ahead and click on those links so we can make sure that we're driving the people to Kristin that are the right people so that she can help you really bring your business to the next level. And we, of course, are trying to do the same thing here at Proudmouth. We have a couple of wonderful opportunities for you. The first one is if you want to just outsource everything to us like Kristin does, our managed influence services, we're still taking new clients now. We only can take about 5 a month. And so, you need to kind of get in early at the beginning of the month, but I would love to have a call with you. And you can just reach out to me directly. Or if you want to be able to do it yourself, guess what? We've got the PodRocket Influence Academy. It's new, it's improved, it's absolutely unbelievable, super wonderful user interface, so easy to use. And plus you get 8 hours of Ask an Expert, which is group coaching every single solitary month. So for Kristin, this is Matt Halloran, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.